Well, what's going on here?
Well, hello there, Jose. How are you doing? How are things with you?
Well, it's a truly wonderful start to this brand new year, and we have with us today a guest who is particularly interesting. Indeed, he is the man of the hour. We're going to switch over to English right now so that he can understand us.
Okay.
Hello, David. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me on. I'm doing very well.
We're so pleased, and it's an honor to have you here with us, with Juanpe and Jose. This is La Madre Que Te Creó, a podcast on technology, creativity, innovation, and we bring amazing people like you are. All right, so
Thank you.
let me just say a few words about you for those that don't know you, if there's anyone. So David is very recently became famous for becoming the first person driving a self-autonomous driven car from coast to coast in US. But he's also more than that. He's 3D product specialist, like linear travel salesman, like knowing everything about 3D mapping. He works at StoneX USA, and he just told me this is like 15 podcasts he's doing right now. So everybody wants to know more about you, David. So welcome here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a treat to be in a podcast that's primarily in Spanish. So it's been very cool to hear people from all across the globe hear about my story, and I've been hearing especially that I don't know why, but for some reason my story is in China has been the biggest by far, and it much popular even there. So and then now to you guys and all continents across the globe. It's been I never thought this would happen. So thank you for reaching out, and really happy to be here.
It's a pleasure for us.
It is a great pleasure. We want to know more about, what take you to do all of that. And, we live in a world where cars are becoming more and more autonomous. Like you are the proof, like living proof of, how far can you get. So we want to know really more about it. But probably, how about we start knowing you a little bit better, right? Juanpe, you want to start?
Oh, yeah. The first question that we can make to David is for people that who don't know you yet. How would you explain what you do without using acronyms? Like, what are you doing? Why you make this kind of trip? Just to introduce to our listeners, who is David Moss?
Yeah. So I'm just a young man from Seattle, Washington. I have a traveling sales job, and I thought having a Tesla and the self-driving and the ADAS was the best way to keep me safe. Why I drive around. I drive about 50,000 miles a year, so that, which is I don't know what that is in kilometers, but and then just going all around, and then when full self-driving Tesla software version 14.2 came out around late November of this past year. I downloaded it, and ever since then I've had great success, and I've not touched the wheel for almost 20,000 kilometers. So I'm about 200 miles away from 20,000 kilometers without touching the steering wheel for in any way, shape, or form, including parking garages, every charging, every aspect. I haven't touched the steering wheel in 6 or 7 weeks. So it's just all been around my job primarily. And then I was just on the road like I do, and a little more than normal. And then towards the end of the year, I decided to attempt to be the first one to drive across the U.S. Without any input, completely autonomous. And somehow I was able to do that, and here we are today.
Perfect. And also, it's amazing that actually, like, you're an expert on technology, like LiDAR, right? Scanners. So you're driving this car and basing your life on it, right? But you know also how it works, the technology. So what can you say about it? Is like, you obviously rely on it 100%, but what do you think is amazing on this experience? Knowing the
Uh,
technology behind, I mean.
yeah, I mean, just that it can be trusted and how safe it really is. It can it can react quicker than I can. It see things, it can see in all 360 degrees. It just can. It's simply better at you than driving, and more people need to realize that, or it's okay to admit that computers can be, you know, humans are always going to be special, but there are just some things that computers are going to do better than us, and
Right.
driving is going to be one of those.
Yeah.
David, one question. What was the idea, the seed of your idea to make this trip? Like, which was this idea in plan? Okay, I would like to do this kind of trip. Which was playing a game,
Yeah.
saying watching a
No.
TV show. I don't know why you were doing this
Yeah.
kind of trip.
Why did I do this? Um, so the first part of it, the vast majority, the first 10,000 kilometers was just for my job. It was just the driving I needed to do. There wasn't any kind of game or going out for fun. It was just what I needed to do to do my job and pay the bills. And then from there, about Christmas time, that's when I decided to have the fun and try to do the coast to coast and just kind of be able to say, because I'd had so much success, be able to say I was the first to drive autonomously across America. I never realized people thought it would be interesting. I thought it would just be some quirky thing that I would tell my children and grandchildren someday, that we drive in autonomous cars all the time, and I was the first one to do that, and that was just my
Yeah.
motivation. But I never imagined it would turn into all these interviews and mainstream media attention and everything else.
Yeah, it's always amazing when you talk to someone that's been the first in doing something, right? It's like you're a pioneer, really. But tell us, what was the biggest technical challenge you had during that journey? Is that something you can tell us?
Yeah.
I
I
was,
mean, throughout the whole, basically 20,000 kilometers, there's been a lot of obstacles along the way. I From things that have just happened. There's been, I'm driving on rural freeways a lot of the time. There's a lot of just roadkill, dead animals on the road that you have to swerve around, even in the middle of the night. I've had situations where there was big, huge paint buckets that it's avoided. Other things that have fallen out of trucks, like big pieces of wood. Last night, I don't know exactly what it avoided, but I posted about that last night, but something that was taking up the full lane and it swerved around it. I've driven in 80-mile-an-hour winds as well. I've driven in very heavy fog to where I was starting to have trouble seeing, very heavy rain. Um, Sunrise and sunset where the sun's right in your eyes and right in the camera sensor. Other than like heavy snow and ice, I've basically put it through everything possible.
Well, and was there a moment where you thought this might not end well?
I mean, the closest kind of call was actually just right before I jumped on to meet you guys. My last parking job for the first time in 20,000 kilometers. It parked on an end spot, and it actually curbed the wheel. So I have a little bit of wheel damage. It did not park as good as it should have. It scraped the wheel a little bit. So that's unfortunate, but that was the closest call. That was the scariest thing that's happened, is I have a little scrape on my wheel now, which happens to all of us. But other
yeah.
than that, it's been flawless and safe, and no close calls or anything dangerous it's doing.
Okay, and I mentioned before a leader, but we know Tesla doesn't have Tesla cars don't use leader. So I was wondering if, from your point of view, which you're an expert on the scanning and real world perception, how much you think is the autonomy of the software versus the hardware capabilities and scanning the real world? Any idea there?
Yeah, I think it's all about the software, all about the compute, and there. Um, I would think in a theoretical sense, it's hard to argue that lidar and combination of lidar, radar, and camera, like with Waymo and Zoox and everybody else and Rivian is doing. It's hard to argue that is a worse solution, but it becomes worse because it's just that sensor fusion is so hard to master, to where it's just probably not something that's ever going to happen. Like there's just so much information with lidar, so much just data stream. The pipeline is just so much more than a little optical 5 megapixel camera that it's just so much more tough job to ask.
Right.
So and after driving 20,000 kilometers, without any problems, and they still have a long ways to go, and how good they can make it. It's hard to say that it's actually needed.
Nice.
And David, I don't know if you are aware in Europe or in Spain we cannot use this kind of cars. We cannot use already use this
Yeah,
autonomous car. No,
that's
um,
horrible. I don't know why they do that to you. They hate
Regulations.
the EU hates you guys or something. I don't know why they would. They don't want to. They don't want lives to be saved. I don't know why they don't want safety, but I'm sorry you guys aren't able to use it.
then after that drive, do you personally think if we have to trust on self-driving cars in from Europe? So this is a hint that this kind of cars we can already use in Europe also. We have to be scared of this kind of technology because in Europe we are some conservative of this kind of technologies, and I don't know if you can say that. No, you have to be trust on this kind of
Yeah,
technology.
I don't think you have to be scared because, especially in this level two supervised state that it's in, the driver, if I wanted to, I could take over within a millisecond. I can take over at any time. As soon as I touch the wheel, as soon as I touch the brake, all the self driving turns off, and you can go back to what you're doing. So if you get uncomfortable, it's not level four, fully autonomous. It's performing like that, but you, the driver, are still in control to where when you guys get it, I don't think it'll be
Yeah.
intimidating, or I think it'll go over and be received very well, because if you want to not use it, you don't have to.
Yeah. I think a strong argument is like European cities are a bit more like chaotic, like irregular, like not very like straight roads. They are intertwined, and the center of the city oftentimes is very chaotic. So I think that people say this is not made for autonomous car driving, but you probably see in all sorts of situations where the car is being behaving properly well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think is the biggest lie? It's like, what is the misconception or like the biggest one? Now that you have, so many hours and you've done this amazing thing, like no one else done before you. Like, what do you think is
Mhm.
the biggest lie when people, or misconception when they think about autonomous driving?
That it's not safe, that it's dangerous, um, you know, things of that nature. Just having misconception that they drive bad because bad press is what makes the news. So you see things like when a Waymo gets confused, has a problem, and then people put it all over social media or anything like that. You never hear about the good stories anymore. Just the way the world and media works. You only hear, the average mainstream media viewer only sees the negative, but there's so much positive out of it, and they'll figure out those kinks. They'll fix these little minor things that are non-safety related, but that it's really like it's here. Autonomy is here. safety is here. Like, give it a try. Even if you've tried it before in the past, it's a completely different thing today. But I think that's just kind of the biggest thing that it truly is beneficial to people's lives. It saves people's lives. It's going to be a net positive to the world. And people are against like autonomous driving in all aspects, but there's a lot of people out there, like my father included. He's legally blind. He has no vision. He's not able to drive. And if he was able to have a cyber cab or any autonomous vehicle, he would regain his independence. He'd be able to go take himself to the doctor. He'd be able to go to the grocery store. He'd be able to go to his
Right.
friend's house. And there's so many examples like that, not even for blind people, but just, people in a wheelchair, elderly people, people that can't drive at night, children. There's so many people that just can't drive that this kind of technology would save, and it's going to prevent things like drunk driving. People don't have to limit themselves at dinner, and then just for the masses, you know, the being able to be in the car and still be able to text and watch videos and social media and all that. It's going to be a beautiful world, and people need to embrace it and realize how wonderful it's going to be instead of all the negatives that gets out there, and all the
Yeah.
hate it, Elon and such.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah, David, in your trip, did the car ever do something you absolutely didn't expect?
Um, no, not really. I mean, if it was something like really unexpected or scary or anything, it wasn't my goal to become famous from this, or have the biggest score or anything. Like, I would take over. Even today, I would take over if I got scared or needed to, or I knew it was being unsafe or something that I didn't know what it was doing. I'm not willing to risk my life or risk the lives of others, or even just damage my own vehicle for this journey. So it's done truly exceptional.
Okay, so what could you say to someone that wants to do like what David did, right? Maybe across Europe, maybe when laws
Yeah,
allow, right? But what would you
yeah.
recommend someone to do?
I mean, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, especially by the time you guys do it, you got to think there's so many, there's a software update every couple of weeks. And by the time you guys get it in the regulations, just imagine how much better it's going to be. But um, I think people are going to be able to do this all the time. I have a new friend of mine that says he's going to try it all across Canada, and all these people that are using my story to drive across where they're gonna go. Self-driving is available in Australia, and I've heard of some people that have had good success, like 99 success. But then there's somebody that I heard that's going to try it all the way around Australia, try to go all the way around in the big circle, 100%. So there's going to be this whole new world of people that I'm not. What I did is not a fluke. I just happened to be the first, but I'm not certainly not going to be the last.
Right. I can see you doing like worldwide, right? Around the world, driving on boats or something like that for the water part, but I can see you doing that. Very good. Okay. So, right. So I was wondering also, because I keep thinking of your background, right, of being an expert on the world of 3D scanning and so forth. Um, what do you think when people think on 2D, or what's changing the world? Because we don't talk enough about it also, right? The beam changes has been there for a long time. Most architects now use beam, that's for sure the standard. But what do you think is really changing now in the 3D capture part of the world, with the fact that Google Maps is mapping everything and other services, and the cars are driving alone, and planes are flying alone, and trucks are also doing it? What do you think is the big change that people have not yet noticed about the capabilities we have of perceiving the world in 3D for engines right now? Have you have a thought on
Yeah.
that?
I guess kind of some thoughts about just this 3D world. So the world's not only in all sorts of mapping, architects, engineering, floor plans, BIM models, big vertical construction, you name it. They're not only able to capture this kind of technology and document it much quicker, 10 times quicker than they were before, but they're also just able to do things that they weren't able to do before. Not really an extension of lidar, but things like Gaussian splatting, which is off the shelf cameras to like you mentioned those survey robots that will put the stakeout marks on the ground to I mean, just everything to, using 3D modeling to make sure things are done more accurately, more quickly, done in the same spot. Not only saving time, but saving money, not able, limiting reconstruction, limiting, revisits to sites. I mean, the world is just moving at a much more faster pace due to 3D and survey technology than it ever did before. So it's very exciting to see. A lot of people I deal with, they're able to do 5, 10 times the amount of work they were able to do, and maybe they charge each customer half as much because they're doing it, so much quicker. But they're also making 5, 10 times the amount of money they've ever made before, just because of how efficient things are. So it's really a beautiful world, and it's really interesting to see where things are going to go from
Yeah.
here, because it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine what the world is like today, let alone what it'll be like in another 5, 10 years with the pace all of these things are evolving.
Absolutely. I mean, we oftentimes say this is the year of the robots, right? People keep talking about AI. We do. We all love AI, but now robots are coming. We have some robots that print on the floor for construction services in HP and other places, in other with customers. So I think you're,
Yeah, robots of all kind. I went to CES last week in Las Vegas, and
yeah,
the whole thing was about real world AI and robots. There wasn't much in the survey, but lawn mowing robots, vacuum cleaning, mopping,
yeah,
humanoid robots. I mean, so many ways that we're going to be able to accelerate the progress of all humans is
yeah.
it's here, and this is, yeah, I agree, it's very much is the year of robots.
Yeah, so soon you will have a robot sitting in your co-pilot's chair while you travel around the world on your Tesla, right? To
Yeah,
just
I have
talk to
myself a
you or something.
Tesla Optimus, or one of those
Exactly.
one X Neo robots. um all that, it'll be
Yeah.
Coming back to your expertise, to 3D tech, um,
Mhm.
what kind of mistakes do companies make when they are trying to adopt 3D tech for the first time?
what kind of when implementing it, that's a good question. Let me think about that. um I would say just not practicing before you use it. With any new tool, it doesn't have to do with 3D. I would say a 3D tool is pretty easy to, but just with any new tool, you need to have some practice. You need to know how the thing works. And if you're gonna, before you take it out, before you fly to a big city to do a big project, you're gonna scan a whole, high rise building. Make sure you know how to do it and use it in your own office before you leave. Just making sure you get your training from your manufacturer, making sure you do all your kind of online certifications, but really knowing that you know how to do it before you implement it. A lot of times I talk to people that have put all their equipment on back on the shelf because they used it one time, it didn't work for whatever reason, and they got in a lot of trouble, or they looked really bad, and then they said, this is vaporware, I'll never touch it again. But it could have been saving them time, and money and everything else. But just because they didn't implement it correctly that first time, that first impression is everything in all aspects of life. And that was, another way. This is definitely true.
So I think you just curate the data, right, through your devices, that the data that the construction company can use to build better the product. So what's the most expensive mistake you've seen, right, over the years of people because of
uh
having bad data or whatever other reason?
yeah, just like bad data, and you come in there to assist, like new customers. It was like a bigger school area, and so there was piping for the water and the sewage and all that. And they built this new school, and then they got to the end of it, and everything was off about half a meter or so, and the pipes just wouldn't fit. They couldn't fit, and it just they had to basically tear down the whole thing because it wasn't even close to spec to where they had to do a whole completely reconstruction just because they couldn't fit into the infrastructure inside within it. It just wasn't matching up at the end. It was a horrible thing. It cost the city a bunch of money and very big embarrassment. And that's the biggest I've seen personally. But um,
Curious.
Mm.
Wow.
Then the bottleneck today for you is the user experience, hardware limitation, software, or people line is not knowing what have to do with this kind of technologies.
Yeah, I think the biggest like bottleneck is just people not being aware of it still. Just either not trusting it or not giving it a chance or just overall marketing all across the industry. Nothing to do with my manufacturer I work for or anything else, but just as a whole, it still seems like we're not there on people really knowing what this can do. You hear of people seeing this on like National Geographic, Graham Hancock, that kind of thing, mapping Amazon rainforest or Mayan temples or things of that sort. You hear about, LiDAR and 3D mapping, but never about what it can be done in your town and
All
your
right.
building, your project. So I still don't think that is, resonated with the masses yet. I don't think they still don't understand, but I don't think it's getting to that point here
That,
soon.
that's a great reflection, I think. Like we live in a world where everybody talks about data, right? You have data, data is the oil, and then you have leaders to do that, but people are not using it and they just know it's there, right? So is it the whole beam thing failing, you think, or we're just not using it, or is it used wrongly, or what do you think is
I
the
certainly
first
think
problem?
it's not failing. I just think it's not moving. The progress of it is not moving at the speed that it could or should. Um, it's just a lot of people. Um, a lot of people just don't want to. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, kind of a thing. And I think as more younger people come into these
Yeah.
industries that it'll adopt. But in a lot of ways, and I can't disagree. But if the way you're doing your way of business is successful today, you know, who's to say you have to change? There's nothing really, that these things can do to enhance it. Like it can make it speed, it can be more data, etc. But if you're already doing a job you're happy with and you don't care about the rest, then maybe you'll never change. Even though
True.
I wouldn't recommend that for a million different reasons, monetary, valuing your time, everything else. But
Yeah.
I think that's just the way these things work sometimes. That
Mhm.
Mm.
Then BIM is more about coordination or about trust.
I would say 50, 50-50 more. I mean, it's both. A lot of times the BIM people are just the people in the office, but you have to work in a big team. You have to have a big, collaboration, like you mentioned, of the people implementing this in the field to transferring it. There's not a lot of people that do every aspect of BIM all in one. That usually relies on a big company and a big team and a lot of trust and coordination. So it's not only getting it's multiple people that have to be bought into the success.
Interesting.
Mm.
And what do you think is how much automation is real today, right? Cars are driven by themselves. What's
Mhm.
next there? What do you think it's going to change there in the digitization of the buildings and the construction? And how much automation can we bring there? What do you think?
I think, a lot of things in like Revit and BAM are probably going to be more and more automated. You see stuff in kind of point clouds and the LiDAR and photogrammetry about auto AI classification. auto feature extraction, things of that sort. You're starting to hear those terms around. I don't think those are mainstream or, very bleeding edge ahead of the curve, but it's going to get to I don't think any of these things are going to be completely automated, but it's going to get more and more where the computer will assist with more of your job. But I think a lot of robots and a lot of this will happen before it comes to BIM, before it comes to 3D mapping.
Yeah. One question maybe is the hype theme, the AI, but is AI actually helping convert point clouds to BIM or just cleaning them? It's like, do you know if AI used in fact on the industry or just doing a small
Yeah,
kind of
just
jobs?
today it's just small stuff, cleaning, identifying, classifying, but it's not making decisions or doing real, real work. It's doing some of these like basic step one things, but it's not making big decisions today, from what I've seen.
Also, you made me think about automation. Like, if I think of the maintenance of a building, right? There's people working there. Maybe in the future it will be robots. But how often do you think it's going to be like scan the whole building, like monitor with the scanners so that something actually gets fixed immediately or autonomously? It's like an autonomous building, let's say. How do you see that?
Yeah. I mean, that could be done in a lot of different ways. Like you see some sophisticated security systems today have LiDAR sensors within them. And that could be used and repurposed to mapping, or you could have a humanoid robot do a slam scan, mobile scan once a week or once a day, or it would depend on the building and the situation, but there's a lot of ways that robots can help. You see, like the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog. You can put a laser scanner or any survey instrument on top of it and put it into environments that humans shouldn't be in for safety or whatever reason, and it can do automated walks. So that kind of stuff is there. I think it's very rare and few and far between of how people are using that today, but I mean that's certainly going to come more and more in the future. I think that the humanoid robot doing that would be a great example. Like everybody goes home for the weekend, the humanoid robot's by itself, and it could scan the construction site once a week, and then you could compare it to last week's scan and see how much progress has exactly been done. Or you could have it in like a mining situation, cut and fill, and seeing how much material was taken today or taken in this past hour, or there's a lot of ways, but that's some good thinking. I mean, I have to think about that more, but I mean, we really are moving to that kind of thing.
Yeah. Say that we have a lot of, let's say, construction tech. Do you know what? Do you think if there are some cultural barrier that nobody talks about that? It's like, okay, we know that we have a lot of technology, the construction tech, but maybe we are not saying that, no, on the field. Do you think if there is some cultural barrier there in the construction?
Not from my experience, maybe across the globe, but especially in construction, I feel like people are there to collaborate and do what they can to be a success. But yeah, I just don't have the most experience with that. But I don't. That's not something I see in my daily life.
Okay, it's maybe related with the price, or maybe because we mostly in our country is the construction tech is not we are not saying every day a real let's say technology there, no, in the construction site. Maybe I don't know if is there any problem with the price, or just is arriving and we are not saying.
I mean, price is always a factor for people. I would say the prices are dropping tremendously. When I started selling my kind of equipment to now, 6 years later, it's doubled in performance and the price has dropped in half. Um, So it is, it is getting better and at a lower price, but it's still, it's still not very cheap. Any of these, robots like you described, the survey layout robots or any kind of mobile lidar and stuff, you're talking in the, many tens of thousands of euros and US dollars. I mean, they're not something everybody can buy.
Mm.
Cool. So I'm curious, David. What do you think a laser scanner see that humans totally miss, and why it's not necessary in the Tesla car?
I mean, well, one, the lidar can just shoot so far. So, like the main sensor I work with is made by a Chinese manufacturer called Hasai, and it has multiple returns. But in one return, it has 32 different lasers, and it shoots out 640,000 points a second at 300 meters of range. And so it's you know moving in 360 degrees. It's seeing so much information and so far a distance, but you don't really need to see that far when you're driving. How far do you really need to see it? 100 meters, 50 meters,
Right.
if that, to where most lidars could probably just overkill on there. You don't need that much information. One of the things too, like just visual slam. I'm not sure exactly how Tesla FSD driving, but if you were to use it like the mobile mapping, just visual V slam only, you need unique geometry. You can't, which the road always has. You have, cars are different shapes. Signs are different shapes. Everything, everybody, the ground, but you have ways for that kind of technology to work, and it's optimal way to where I don't think it's needed, and it's just getting better. I think it's great that they validate with lidar. They have all these sensors they put on. You see them driving around all across America here. They have multiple lidar radars. Looks like, and recently they put up there were some photos that leaked of different camera placements and other things they do to validate, but just to really teach this AI exactly where these are. And I think another way they're able to get around with it is, LiDAR is a very precise, sub-centimeter measurement most of the time. When we're talking about driving and avoiding, you don't need to be that precise either. I mean, like, you have to be keeping the lanes and all that, but you do have a pretty good leeway. The lane you drive in is not, is a lot bigger than what the size of your vehicle is. And every kind of turn and stuff, you have a very wide gap. It's not like driving on a train track where you have to be, precise the whole time. You do have a little bit of leeway that I think, something using the vision sensors allows that people, I don't think, talk about as much.
Cool.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, let's talk about the future. No? A question for you. What technology is currently overhyped and what is underestimated for you?
What was the first part? You said overhyped?
Overhyped, yeah. What
Uh,
technology is currently overhyped?
um, I would say like AI generated videos. Um, Sora and Neo 3.1 and Grok Imagine and things like that. I think those are highly overrated. Um, any kind of like, AI slop, people like to call it, but not a fan of that. There's not really a good benefit to the world of that kind of stuff. Um, and then kind of underrated. I mean, I think underrated is just like humanoid robots. I'm kind of a big believer in that. And like I mentioned, my father being blind, right before we got on this podcast, I watched a new update video from 1X Tech and their Neo robot, doing some more examples of autonomous work. and that's just something I don't know if because I have a bias of my father, and us having an order in for him to help him regain his independence, since he's disabled. But I think there's a lot of use cases for just humanoid robots that people don't think about. I saw Elon Musk talk about it in a recent interview about if you could have a humanoid robot in the middle of Africa or the middle of the Amazon rainforest, and it could be the best surgeon in the world, and all these kind of
Yeah.
specialized tools that the world has a short supply of: nurses, doctors, surgeons, dentists, you name it, all these specialized trades. And that could be, blue collar, that could be, construction, that could be anything. A humanoid robot could be taught that and implemented in all aspects across the globe. And I think that's really gonna help things, and just again save a lot of lives and make the world a better place.
Perfect. I like it. Yeah, but just curious, do you think that the technology that is allowing to improve the world, maybe in Amazon, in desert, like you said, definitely there's a need for skills there in those places. But do you see, or how can you see the risk of these tools controlling us? Like maybe Optimus can sell LiDAR. So, no, what do you think? How do you see the
Yeah,
future
I
in
mean,
that sense?
there's always the AI could overthrow us. There's always that. I don't know much about that or look into that, but I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And then, yeah, it could happen to me as well. Like computers and all that and sales, or, there's a lot of jobs that are going to be, taken away, for all aspects. It's hard to say. I mean, people have always evolved. People have always changed,
Of
in
course.
all aspects. Industrial revolution, invention of the car. People careers have always changed. So I think the world will be okay. But I mean, this is definitely going to be the biggest, change in the history of humanity by a long margin. And I think that's something we need to start planning for sooner than later.
Absolutely. I like that. We need to go to Mars. Absolutely. It will be robots who do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a fan of the Mars just as a plan B. I mean, Mars has a lot of very big disadvantages, but in the Western world, we can all be, proud of what we've done. But you never know that, any enemy, foreign or domestic, of all countries could end the world, and we need to figure out how to keep humanity alive for forever. And I think Mars is the next step for that. So I hope that continues to go more and more just as a plan B, insurance policy. But we got to do what we can to protect our own, because there's a lot of evil, there's a lot of danger in this world, and it could all be our last day. We just have no way to
you
know.
may, you may be the first person to drive around Mars.
I wish I would do if I could go to Mars today and never come back to Earth. I would do it in a heartbeat. But that would be the adventure of a lifetime. But never say never. The world is a
Sure.
possibility. I don't think that's going to happen to me, or don't want to speak too highly and stuff. I'm being a little joking here, but it's you always got to say, people, like, you can put your mind to it. You can do anything. Nobody can tell you what to do. You If you want to do it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
Okay. In 10 years, how are you envisioning our world with these kind of technologies, travel to Mars? How are you envisioning our day by day in 10 years?
Was that a question for me or him? Um,
For you.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
I think he knows my
envisioning.
opinion already.
Yeah. But day by day, I mean, we're gonna just world in 10 years from now. I mean, like, people are, you're not, autonomous, level 4 driving will be available for anybody at any time. Like, you won't need to know how to drive. I mean, examples. I mean, I don't think the world will be, look the same in 10 years time. In 10 years, the world will have gone back to Mars, or not to Mars, to the moon. NASA and SpaceX and China are all have plans to go to the moon. We'll have presence on the moon bases, maybe more helium-3 mining, and
Yeah.
then within 10 years, I bet SpaceX or China or anybody else has made it to Mars as well. And um, it's yeah, I mean, it's going to be amazing. We're gonna see Cybertrucks and Optimus and on the world and all around in our current everyday lives.
I love that. I want to see
Mm.
that too.
But it's
We
not going to be a perfect world either. I speak highly, but there's going to be some weird things and some changes. And
yeah.
you see the people that are in love with their AIs, and there's probably going to be weird people
Oof.
marrying robots, and there's going to be a lot of protests and overthrowing, and you have all the stuff in Iran these past couple days, and it's I can't talk like the world is going to be a perfect place. There's still going to be problems, but I think 10 years from now that we're gonna have made progress as humanity.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Great.
So we are approaching the end, David. So, but we can maybe it's a couple of questions, and then we're good. We know you also need to go, but I'm curious. What would you say to someone that wants to be the first one in like we live in a world like every place is being visited, right? You cannot be like the
Yeah.
first one to go someplace anymore, right? Everyone is, but you still manage to be the first one to like achieve something, and now everybody wants to talk to you because of that. So, what would you say to someone that is looking forward to do something the first one? What do you see? What do you say?
I would say go for it as much as your people around you may think you're an outcast or just that it's not possible or anything holding you back. Like, do it just for yourself. If I don't do things to please others, but do it for yourself. But if you want to be the first to do anything, like you said, drive across Europe, or it could be any example in any way, shape, or form of life. But just do it. Do it for yourself. Life is short. Live for be courteous to others, but live for yourself. Don't do things to impress others. And like I was saying, like I just drove across America to say it myself, and I had no idea my life was going to turn into this. And maybe if you do the thing that for the first time that you want to do, that maybe you'll have a similar story as me. And I wish them the best.
I like that. And I'm sure that you're describing to your dad, your blind dad, all these beautiful places you've seen through driving all across the country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, David. Then we are to the final, no? So final was our chapter. Thank you very much, David Moss, to share with us your vision, your trip, your adventures crossing the coast to coast. And Jose.
Yeah, it is an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you, David. Wish more people will have your way of visionary way of looking at the world on doing things with respect and because you believe it has to be done and you want to do it. So I really like and enjoyed having you had here. This is your house, so we wish you all the best for the next trips. Keep driving, keep being a pioneer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you guys, and thank you all for tuning in. This was a real pleasure to speak to you all across the globe, and I know you guys are meeting with me very late your time, so I really appreciate you making the effort to adapt to my time zone that didn't go unnoticed. And keep hope you guys tune in to what I have going on. All of you listening in, and do what I can to promote autonomy and how it can help many people in our world. And I'm going to try to do the kind of famous cannonball New York to LA autonomously some point this year.
Oh wow.
And then I have a goal to drive in all 50 U.S. states this year and using Tesla FSD. So I'm going to be able to drive 49 in my own vehicle, and then the 50th I'll have to fly to Hawaii and rent a car. But there'll be a lot of traveling, a lot of fun, a lot more success stories. So and I'm not going to be the only one. Again, not a fluke. Autonomy is here, safety is here. There's another two guys yesterday that just did a coast to coast similar to what I did. Now I'm not the only one to do it, so it is possible. Get out there, people, and enjoy this new world we're living in. And thank you both again.
Thank you, David. You're an amazing person. Thank you for coming.
Well, let us to switch to Spanish, David.
All right.
Jose?
All right then. Very well. We'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much to everyone for following us. And please don't forget to subscribe. Juanpe and I are absolutely thrilled to share exciting stories with you, like the one today about David. And we'll see you all again soon.
All right then, everyone. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you all again in the next video. Goodbye for now.